Dear students, myself Dr. Dipti Shrivastava, Associate Professor in Zoology, Government Dungar College, Bikaner. Today we will discuss on skin of rabbit. Skin or integument. First of all, structure of skin. As in all vertebrates, the skin of rabbit is also built of two main parts or layers, an outer epidermis and an inner dermis. Below the skin, limb spaces are absent and it is connected with muscles with the help of specialized connective tissue called areolar connective tissue. Epidermis. The epidermis is the upper, thick and more complex layer formed of stratified epithelium arranged in many layers. The outer layer of cells are hard, scale-like, that fully keratinized and flattened, known as stratum corneum. This layer contains hard keratin which prevents the passage of water and solutes. In places where there is considerable friction, this layer may become very thick. This layer is cast off in shades periodically. This layer is followed by a thin layer of transparent and hardened cells, the stratum lucidum. A chemical substance, elladen, is found in this layer. The stratum lucidum is transformed into stratum corneum when it is removed. This layer of lucidum is followed by a thick layer of stratum granulosum which consists of granular cells. Finally, the innermost layer of epidermis is stratum LPG or stratum germinativum which is made up of columnar cells. The cells of this layer are very active and divided to form new cells. As the new cells are formed, the older ones are pushed upwards and at the same time they become flattened. Their protoplasm becomes granular and horny due to the formation of keratin, which is a protein. Finally, they come to the surface and become perfectly flat and horny. The pigment in the skin is produced by special pigment cells or the chromatophore cells or the melanophores situated in the basal layer of the epidermis. These cells are branched with long processes. Here we can see the vertical section of skin. In this diagram, we can see the outermost layer epidermis which is made up of stratum corneum, stratum lucidum, stratum granulosum and stratum germinativum, and the below the epidermis the dermis is present. Dermis. The epidermis is followed by the dermis which is a thick, tough, flexible and elastic covering over the whole of the body. The dermis is formed of connective tissue fibers, unstriped muscles, blood capillaries, nerves and fat cells. The nerve endings, receptors and blood capillaries are distributed throughout the dermis. Some of the epidermal glands, example sweat gland, sebaceous gland, etc., are found in the dermis. The deeper part of the dermis is formed of subdermal, fatty or adipose tissue consisting of groups of fat cells working as a heat insulating layer. The functions of the dermis are to provide firmness and flexibility to the skin, protecting and supporting the body and carrying blood to the general body surface. Here, The hairs are epidermal in origin and found in the mammals only. A hair develops as a thickening of the stratum germinativum of epidermis. Later on, it is differentiated into two parts. The basal part, deeply situated in the dermis, is called the root, which is bulb like, and the upper part that traverses the dermis and projects out of the epidermis is called the shaft. The hair is enclosed in a tube-like invagination of the epidermis formed by stratum malpighi, the hair follicle. At the base of the follicle in the dermis, a small swelling of dermal tissues are found, which is known as dermal papilla or hair papilla. The hair papilla is richly supplied by fine blood vessels carrying nourishment which diffuses into the root of the hair. The epidermal cells situated above the hair papilla multiply actively, which are actually responsible for the growth of the hair. The shaft of the hair enclosed in a cuticular layer, which is followed by a pigmented fibrous cortex consisting of a elongated horny epidermal cells. In the center of the shaft, pith or medulla is found consisting of rounded cells. The unstriped erector muscles which are found attached to the hair follicle can raise the hair due to excessive cold, fear, etc. Here we can see the structure of hair. The hair is epidermal in origin and found in the mammals only. The hair develops as a thickening of the stratum germinativum of epidermis. It is differentiated into two parts. The basal part deeply situated in the dermis is called the root. Which is bulb like, and the upper part which traverses the dermis and projects out of the epidermis is called the shaft. The hair enclosed in a tube like invagination of the epidermis, and this invagination is known as hair follicle. At the base of the follicle, a small swelling is found which is known as dermal papilla or hair papilla. The hair papilla is richly supplied by fine blood vessels. Here we can see the TS of shaft of hair. The center of the shaft, pith or medulla is present, which is consisting of rounded cells. And outside the medulla, cortex is present, which is pigmented fibrous structure, and outside the cortex cuticle is present. Thus, the shaft of the hair encloses the first layer cuticle, then cortex, and middle portion medulla. Uses of hairs. Some of the notable uses of hairs in mammals are as follows. First, hairs impart color and camouflage. Second, hairs form an insulating sheet by trapping air, which prevents undue loss of heat from body. In furred mammals such as rabbits, rats, etc., the hairy covering or pelage forms a kind of portable blanket for survival in cold. Next, vibrissae act as tactile receptors having several nerve endings round their bases. Eyelashes and hairs in and around nostrils prevent dust particles. Long tail hairs of cow or horse help in getting rid of flies and other harmful insects. So, today we studied about skin of rabbit. Thank you.